What's up, Steelers Nation? It's time to dive into another hot topic surrounding our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, and we've got an important update for you. As the team continues its quest to improve and bring home more wins, many of us were hoping for some action in the wide receiver department. Well, another big-name target just slipped through our fingers. But before we break down the details, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to stay on top of all the latest Steelers news. Now, let's get into it. As Steelers fans, we know that our team could use a bit more depth at wide receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins was a name that many of us had circled as a potential game-changer. The five-time All-Pro wideout was reportedly on the trade block, and this morning, news broke that the Tennessee Titans have reached an agreement to trade Hopkins, not to us, but to the Kansas City Chiefs. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Chiefs will receive Hopkins in exchange for a conditional fourth-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. That's right, folks, a fourth-round pick. For a player of Hopkins' caliber, it's shocking that the Titans didn't demand more in return. But here we are, watching another talented receiver head to a contender, and once again, the Steelers are left watching from the sidelines. So, why weren't the Steelers more involved? That's the question on everyone's mind. After all, we were linked to the last two big-name receivers who hit the trade market, Brandon Ayuk from the San Francisco 49ers and Davante Adams from the Las Vegas Raiders, both of whom we narrowly missed out on. But this time, there wasn't even a whisper connecting the Steelers to Hopkins. Steelers GM Omar Khan has been known to pick up the phone when trade opportunities arise, but according to reports, there wasn't much interest in making a move for Hopkins. The wide receiver himself made it clear that he was happy in Tennessee, and he had no real desire to leave the Titans, stating last week, "I love my life. I love where I'm at." Still, with Diontae Johnson on injured reserve and George Pickens shouldering much of the load at wide receiver, many fans were hoping that Pittsburgh would at least explore the possibility of bringing in Hopkins to bolster the offense. Let's not forget who DeAndre Hopkins is. At 32 years old, he may not be in his prime, but he's still one of the most reliable receivers in the game. Last season, despite dealing with injuries, he put up 1,057 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns on 75 catches, averaging 14.1 yards per reception. He's a big-bodied receiver at 6 feet 1 inch and 216 pounds, with the ability to win contested catches and make plays down the field. Kansas City, which has been desperate for wide receiver help since Rashee Rice went down with season-ending injuries earlier this year, just got a huge boost to their offense. Hopkins has the potential to be a difference-maker for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' playoff push, and it's tough to see another top talent land with an AFC rival instead of coming to Pittsburgh. Now, here's the million-dollar question: why didn't the Steelers make a move? With the trade cost as low as a conditional fourth-round pick, some fans are left scratching their heads. It's clear that Pittsburgh needs more depth at receiver. While George Pickens has been fantastic as the team's WR1, the other options haven't been nearly as consistent. Calvin Austin III has shown flashes of potential, and Allen Robinson has brought some veteran experience, but it's clear that this offense is still missing a reliable second option. There are a few possible reasons why the Steelers stayed out of the Hopkins sweepstakes. First, it's possible that the front office is happy with the current receiver group and believes that Diontae Johnson's eventual return will solve many of the issues. Johnson is still one of the most precise route runners in the NFL, and his presence would take some of the pressure off Pickens. Second, there's the financial side of things. Hopkins is still owed the remainder of his $26 million, two-year deal, with around $8.27 million in salary left for this season, plus bonuses and incentives. For a team like the Steelers, who are already paying big money to key players on both sides of the ball, adding that kind of contract might not have been feasible without making other moves. This missed opportunity comes on the heels of several others for the Steelers. Earlier this season, we were linked to San Francisco's Brandon Ayuk, but the 49ers ultimately chose to extend him before any deal could be made. Then, just last week, the Las Vegas Raiders sent Davante Adams to the New York Jets in exchange for a conditional second or third-round pick. Both of these receivers would have provided an instant upgrade to the Steelers' offense, but once again, Pittsburgh stood pat. Hopkins is just the latest receiver to land with a new team, and while the Chiefs are reaping the benefits, Steelers fans are left wondering if we'll ever see the front office make a bold move to address the receiving core. As it stands, the Steelers are entering Week 8 with a 5-2 record and legitimate playoff hopes. Russell Wilson, after returning from his calf injury, looked sharp in last week's 37-point explosion, and the defense has been as strong as ever. But if the Steelers want to make a serious run at the Super Bowl this season, they'll need more consistent production from the passing game. George Pickens can't do it all on his own. While he's been a stud, Pittsburgh needs more options to spread the field and give Wilson more reliable targets. Deontay Johnson's eventual return will help, but it remains to be seen whether the Steelers' current group of receivers can step up in the meantime. First things first, we all know there's been a ton of chatter about the Steelers' need to acquire a wide receiver, especially after trading Deontay Johnson to the Carolina Panthers in the offseason. Fans have been eagerly waiting for GM Omar Khan to make a splash move for a new pass catcher, but there's more to consider than just that. With a 5-2 record heading into Week 8's matchup against the New York Giants on Monday Night Football, Pittsburgh is set for a critical stretch of the season. While the wide receiver position remains a priority, the Steelers could benefit from upgrading other areas as well. Let's take a look at 3 positions that Pittsburgh might target before the trade deadline. 1. Cornerback depth, bolstering the secondary. The Steelers' cornerback room has had its share of ups and downs this season. While rookie Joey Porter Jr. has been phenomenal and Beanie Bishop Jr. is coming off his best game yet against the New York Jets, the unit is still in need of depth. Cameron Sutton is set to return from his 8-game suspension, and Dante Jackson is expected back from injury in Week 8, which is great news. But as we head into the back half of the season, we can't forget that there's a long list of elite wide receivers coming up on the schedule. While C.J. Henderson has just signed, and James Pierre is a familiar face to the Steelers faithful, there's still room for improvement. Defensive coordinator Terrell Austin might appreciate an additional corner to help lock down opposing wideouts, especially with matchups against top-tier receivers looming. Another solid cover corner could make all the difference in maintaining our strong defense as we head into a potential playoff push. The good news? The Steelers don't need to make a blockbuster trade here, but adding another capable cornerback could help solidify the depth and give the team flexibility when facing high-powered passing offenses. 2. Offensive line, reinforcements needed? We've all seen the bumps and bruises the offensive line has taken this season. Injuries have hit the line hard, and while Pittsburgh has planned well by having depth players ready to step in, it might be time to explore adding another piece to the puzzle. The O-line has held its own despite several key injuries, but the injury bug is always lurking, and a deep playoff run demands that we stay ahead of the game. With some players out for the season and others expected to return soon, it's critical that the Steelers ensure the line remains stable and effective. Bringing in another lineman before the trade deadline might not seem like a splashy move, but it could be the key to keeping the offense on track. Let's face it, there's no need for a superstar acquisition here. But adding an experienced lineman to the rotation would provide valuable insurance against future injuries and help protect Russell Wilson as he leads the offense toward a postseason run. 3. Safety, a hidden opportunity? The Steelers have a strong trio at safety with Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott, and Damontae Kazee, but there's room for improvement. While Terrell Edmunds rejoined the team, his performance in coverage hasn't been as effective as hoped, particularly in obvious passing situations. That's where the Steelers could benefit from bringing in a safety who excels in pass coverage and can step in on third downs to help lock down opposing receivers. This is an area where Pittsburgh could get creative. Adding a safety with a knack for defending the pass could elevate the defense even further, giving the Steelers an edge in critical moments. Fitzpatrick has been the anchor of the secondary, but an additional safety could relieve some of the pressure on him and keep the defense fresh as we head toward the postseason. While Omar Khan is likely to focus primarily on wide receivers before the trade deadline, safety is an intriguing position to watch. A savvy addition to the safety group could give Pittsburgh a versatile tool on defense and help shut down the deep threats we'll be facing in the second half of the season. As exciting as it is to imagine the Steelers making multiple moves before the deadline, the reality is that trades aren't as common in the NFL as they are in other sports. That said, if Omar Khan does make a move, it's likely to be for a wide receiver. The need is clear, and Pittsburgh's offense could use another reliable target to complement George Pickens. However, even if the Steelers don't address the other positions we've talked about, fans shouldn't be too disappointed. The team is in a strong position at 5-2, and while there are areas that could use some depth, Pittsburgh has already shown they can compete at a high level this season. So, Steelers Nation, what's your take on this? Should the Steelers have made a stronger push for DeAndre Hopkins, or are you happy with the way things are shaping up with our current receivers? And what about the possibility of future trades? Do you think the front office should be more aggressive as we get closer to the trade deadline, or do you trust in the development of our younger guys like Calvin Austin III and Roman Wilson? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more Steelers news, analysis, and exclusive updates coming your way. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, here we go, Steelers.